Good evening, dear friends. I hope you are doing well. At the very beginning, I would like to thank you very much. I would like to thank you sincerely for the interest that you have shown in the contents of the channel. Your reactions to the previous video in the form of likes and also for the comments that you placed where you expressed your appreciation, you expressed your gratitude, you expressed your encouragements. I have no shred of doubt that with these encouragements the channel will sustain its effort in delivering the contents that it purports to deliver. Some of you took the trouble to share the links with the link to the previous video with the people they deemed probably interested, or they thought they would be interested in the contents of the channel. This is also an invitation to those of you who have not, and a request to those of you who have not been able, who have not had occasion to subscribe to the channel, to do so in hopes that this endeavor will sustain. Initially, the idea of the second video was not this topic of objectivity and subjectivity in research, but it was to introduce an aspect of written expression, a structure, in fact, that keeps recurring in the writings of students, not only at the master's and doctorate level, but also at the level of the undergraduate, especially at the level of S3, the composition classes. And the idea was to introduce this structure. It's a very simple structure, and provide alternatives in order to make a piece of writing look academically better. I have deferred this to the next video, and the reason why I have decided to focus on objectivity/subjectivity in today's video, the reason, as I said, is that there were two comments to the previous video made by two outstanding former students. One of the comments expressed the idea that objectives can be formulated only after we have done enough readings, and of course I cannot agree more. It's true, because we cannot wake up in the morning and decide off the top of our heads to draft our objectives. That does not stand to reason. What I meant in the video, the central idea I was trying to make is that, and that's very deplorable. The idea is that there are students in their second year, in the third year, in the fourth year, who are unable to phrase their objectives if they know about them at all. All too often we see students are mentioning their objectives sometimes in their introduction, but when they reproduce them in the methodology chapter, for example, they rephrase them, and we often end up in different objectives. And of course this happens also when they are further reproduced in the conclusion. A different phrasing meant or often means different phrasing of objectives, often means different objectives, as simple as this. So thank you very much for your comment. And the second comment related to this issue of subjectivity in research. And it's true, we have to be careful when we at different points in our journey with the thesis, with the piece of writing, with the study, and with the report that we write on it. Because sometimes we do not intend to be subjective, but we fall in this trap of subjectivity just like that. And today I will talk about 3 points that relate to this issue. First, when we say of a piece of research that it is scientific, that it is characterized by a level of scientificity, then automatically this means that the piece of research in question is one that is objective. Now, subjectivity, of course, there are voices that talk about qualitative research as being subjective, but that's not the meaning we are discussing now. The meaning of subjectivity we are discussing now. Subjectivity in qualitative research means that the that the researcher brings his experience, her experience, to the analysis, and this experience, this background knowledge, this experience, his knowledge about the target, maybe community he is investigating, he or she is investigating. That's just a case in point. That's just a simple example. That will help, of course, broaden the scope of his interpretation. That's for sure. As William Labov once said, the more we know, the more we find out. But that's not what we are after. No, what we are discussing today is the subjectivity that has that runs the risk of making our research biased. And when subjectivity is lacking in a piece of research, then that piece of research is biased at best and awkward at worst. Here are a few steps that we need to take in order to avoid subjectivity in our studies. The first one concerns the title. We have to be very careful in phrasing our titles. Sometimes, it occurred to me to read theses where the title says is as follows: the important role of pre-reading activities in improving text comprehension. So the moment we say important role, we are anticipating, we are subjective, because from the very first step we are biased. Because whether the role of pre-reading activities is important, vital, and so forth, that should be inferred from our data and the analysis of the data, not at the very beginning. We cannot say that. We are anticipating. So here we have this threat to our objectivity. We start from the very first step, we start to be subjective. That should not be the case, ladies and gentlemen. The second point where subjectivity can be shown, and of course should be avoided, is at the level of our objectives. And I'm harking back to objectives again. When you find an objective like, for example, the present piece of research or the present thesis, the present monograph, and so forth, has for an aim or aims at, or the main purpose of this piece of research is to argue that anxiety correlates with students' intended effort. Well, when your intention is to argue that X correlates with Y, then why do you need that research in the first place? That you don't need to go through the process. You are burning, the general picture. Therefore, it's better to state our objectives in as careful a manner as we can afford, by avoiding, things like the phrases or wordings like the main aim is to argue, is to, for example, to prove that. Your aim is not to prove, but what proves is your data and the way you analyze your data. It's not your objectives that prove. Therefore, we have to be very careful in this respect. A third, part of the thesis of a study where subjectivity can be shown is the methodology, is the way we collect the data, of course. Now, just imagine that we intend to explore students' views of gender roles in Morocco. Gender role, so attitudes, not views. So let's talk about attitudes. You see? And the researcher decides to invite to the study participants, a total of 40 participants, 35 of whom are males. This is biased, of course, and this is subjective. So what we need to do is, in this respect, is to try to have some equilibrium between males and females, for example, 20-20 or 40-40, depends on the sample size. With these things in mind, there is a third, part of the work of the thesis or the piece of writing where this subjectivity can emerge and can threaten the credibility, in fact, of our piece of work. This has to do with some of the wording. Sometimes we are not careful in wording, especially when we report claims made by others. As a case in point, there are, for example, authors who can, for one reason or another, they can make claims about the importance of direct corrective feedback. You see, it's better. For example, they say that it's the best practice ever. If an author says that it's the best practice ever, then you, as a researcher, should not reproduce the idea using the same word in the best practice ever, unless, of course, you quote. But do not try to make it yours. Do not try to express the same idea, otherwise you will fall in this subject. You have to, to be objective even in the way you phrase ideas. For example, instead of saying direct feedback or prompts, recasts, whatever, are the best practices according to so and so, you can use the word allegedly the best, reportedly, allegedly. You can use words like what is commonly referred to as, or what is reported to be, etc. Use these expressions in order to avoid falling into the trap of subjectivity. This video was meant to be light. It was just meant to draw students' attention to this issue of subjectivity. We will have occasion to talk about issues of validity, reliability later on, where these issues of subjectivity again will be brought up. And with this, I would like to bring this presentation to a close. I would like to thank you so much, and I would like to invite you again to subscribe for those of you who have not, and to react to this video. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.